All right, let's talk about the final unit, which is titled Research. But it's not your traditional, typical argumentative research essay, which usually closes out a Composition 1 course. It is an autoethnography. Auto, like autobiographical, and ethnography has to do with culture. But in this case, you're picking a subculture that you belong to. For example, I've had people in the past write about being a soccer player as being a subculture. I've had people write about cottagecore being a subculture, or their religious affiliation, their sexuality, their political party affiliation. It really can be anything that is a group that you think helps define who you are, and nothing really is off limits. So what you need to do is start thinking about, if you have to do research, because of course we've just done rhetorical analysis, so you are credible as a writer in the fact that you participate personally in this subculture. But that does not equal instant persuasiveness, right? Or credibility when it comes to what you're informing the reader of. It gives you some credibility, but a lot of personal anecdote is emotional appeal. So you're showing the reader your experience of that subculture, and you're obviously painting it in certain ways, but you need to do more than just tell us about your experience in the subculture. You need to do some outside research to provide some logical appeal about what makes that subculture work, what makes it tick, what does it mean to participate in this subculture, and what does it say about the people that participate in that subculture. So those are all things for you to think about. So if you go all the way back to the beginning of the semester, when I was asking you to start percolating ideas about your literacy journey, a story you could tell about reading and writing and its impact on your life, for the autoethnography, now would be a great time for you to start thinking about the subcultures that you belong to. There are some people that are really into NASCAR. That is a subculture. There are some people that are very politically charged, and they identify as a member of that party, and that gets a lot of focus in their life, and they identify with it. So what do you identify with? So hopefully that should be something that you don't have any problem doing some research on. And that's what you're practicing, because this is a bridge assignment to Composition 2, where you will be writing what's called a Rogerian argument, which is a type of argument that considers both sides to an issue and tries to find a middle ground solution so that both sides feel like you've negotiated some kind of path forward for both parties, both sides. That's a great assignment because we live in a politically fraught time period where there's some trouble listening on different sides of the political spectrum. And so the Rogerian argument is a neat way for you to engage with a debate, sometimes a controversial topic if you so choose, and give credence to one side, give credence to the other, and then create a middle ground solution, all based on research where both sides feel like they've been respected and are more open to understanding this middle ground or accepting this middle ground solution so that people can move forward. So if you think in a political system, this would be communication 101. writing 101, which is this composition 101, transitioning you to composition 102, which is a higher level. And if we're going to have you do research and we're going to have you write persuasively, there's no better way than showing you how to honor and respect both sides while presenting a middle ground solution that both sides could buy into. That would just be great. So I see a lot of benefit in that. And that is not my assignment. We all teach the exact same assignments at Cincinnati State. So that goes to the understanding that if you've been working through the assignments this semester and you've been like, Mr. Ruoff, I don't understand. It's not just me. It's every instructor that you have at Cincinnati State is giving these assignments, and you will write Rogerian arguments when you move on to composition 2. But anyway, that's where we're headed, and the goal of this assignment is for you to learn how to do MLA 9 research effectively integrated into your writing and craft a works cited page. It is based on you, so we found a way to make it more meaningful and engaging for you, so that you will want to participate in the research because it's about a subculture that you care about, that you feel you identify with. And that'll set the stage for you to understand the research process and how to integrate and how to do the works cited page for when you move on to do Comp 2 and you start writing Rogerian arguments so you can hit the ground running. So it's been a great semester so far. And you've worked your way through the literacy narrative, through the rhetorical analysis, and think of this as like a hybrid of those two. So again, like the literacy narrative, it's about you. And like the rhetorical analysis, you're going to put some analysis in here about your subculture, about your involvement, integrate some research, and maybe try some of the rhetorical techniques you saw McCullough Jr. using. You could think about what your purpose is in writing this autoethnography, who your audience is, your mix of logical and emotional appeals, your own credibility and how you can up your credibility on the backs of more knowledgeable others, and then maybe try to work in some of the sentence level, sophisticated and stylish 30. Could you work a question in? You don't answer it. It's a rhetorical question. You work a question in, you answer it. That's hypophora. Could you repeat the structures at the beginning of phrases or clauses or sentences, and you would have an aphora or a parallel structure? And that would be for emphasis. So at a certain point in your autoethnography, you want to drive a point home. So you organize the sentence differently to draw attention to it, and it would fit one of the rhetorical techniques. So just being conscious of that, working on that, trying to work that into your writing might be a step in the right direction, because ultimately the goal is, honestly, for a lot of students, the goal is pass the class, move on, or get fill in the blank grade, get an A, move on. But ultimately the purpose of this class is to help you become a better writer. And so that is my hope at this point. You've seen this through the arrangement of the assignments, the advice that I'm trying to give you. Maybe we've corresponded through email. You've raised your hand and asked some questions through email. You've read my feedback. And you know that my goal 100% is that you are a better writer when you leave this class than when you came in. And maybe there's some transfer, not just into English composition 2, but into other aspects of your life. And I'll give you an example. I am recording this in the writing center at Cincinnati State where I work. Our writing center manager, Terry Injuries, is retired. And I sat here the other day and I wrote a speech for his retirement party. And I was thinking about the things that I just talked to you about. What's my purpose? Who's my audience? Can I work in some logical and emotional appeals? And I felt like I needed to write this speech and give it because I've been working with Terry for 23 years. And I thought, you know what? I have the credibility to really show him what I've seen, that I've noticed these things about his impact on Cincinnati State, the writing center, me as an individual, students, other instructors that work in the writing center. And this is something that I need to do and do a good job on, and work in some things like anaphora, work in a rhetorical question to try to highlight certain things and to make this speech as good, as well written, as engaging, and emotionally resonant as possible. And that's that's not an assignment for class, that's just life. And that's my hope for you, is that you see some transfer into your own life. So with that being said, final unit, looking forward to reading your work. I appreciate all the things that you've done so far this semester. So let's finish strong, and raise your hand, reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns.